Thinking differently is something Kiwis are really good at. A stream running through a building site can be a problem, but not if you build a bridge and put a house on it. Marketing manager Nicola and builder Harlem and their children Sylvie and Lil live in Dunedin at Brighton Beach. They've been staying at Nicola's parents' place here for the last 12 months after pretty much hitting the wall.
3 or 4 years ago, we had 2 little children. I had a really busy job and we took on a renovation building business. You think that you've got to do it all and have it all, and that was a really, really busy lifestyle that we just couldn't sustain.
Adding to the pressure of juggling busy family and professional lives was also the matter of Sylvie's delicate health.
Sylvie was born with quite a rare genetic condition that affects her in different ways. She has hearing loss in both ears. She's dyslexic. She's got quite a complex form of epilepsy with different types of seizures that she has.
It was one stress after another, and Harlem took it particularly hard.
Harlem had a bit of an episode of depression, and that just kind of tipped the balance.
It became pretty clear that something had to change.
The couple sold the building business and the bungalow they'd spent years doing up in Dunedin, then started thinking about building a new home. They wanted a simpler lifestyle, close to nature with more family time, although that has its own challenges, as they've all found out over the last year.
It's hard to parent under your parents' noses.
Of course, they're not the tidiest, but then it's been as good as you could possibly expect it to be, really. We haven't had to disinherit anybody yet.
Searching online, Harlem found a bush-covered 2,000 square metre section in the leafy suburb of Helensburgh in North Dunedin. It had been on the market for a year with no takers. Most buyers put off by the steep gully and the stream running through the middle. But Harlem believed he had the building skills to cope with it, so the couple snapped up the section for $50,000. G'day. Anybody home?
G'day, mate.
G'day.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Hi. Wow, what a spot.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
If you're going to build in here, I mean, where's the house going to fit?
We'll make a place for it.
While some of the bush will have to go, I know Harlem and Nicola want to get as close to nature as possible, so the design of their house will be critical.
We'd seen a house designed by Philip Johnson, the modernist architect, called the Glasshouse. When we saw that, we thought, well, that's something that would work perfectly in the site. So you can actually see through and you're not obstructing any of the nature and what's around the house.
Well, I wasn't expecting that. Philip Johnson's glass house in the American state of Connecticut was completed in 1949 and immediately hailed as a classic of modernist architecture. With huge glass panels and no interior walls, you can see everything inside from the outside, so it's hardly a family home. And Harlem and Nicola's site is very different.
The plan is to build a bridge.
A bridge?
A bridge with some glass and a roof.
You're going to build over the stream, right across. Wow, that's fairly audacious.
From bank to bank, yeah.
Harlem and Nicola's glass house will appear to float high above the stream with only 4 legs carrying all the weight. Steel beams span the gully, forming the bridge, the base of a rectangular box covered in 154 square metres of glass. Inside, the middle of the house will be completely open plan, incorporating the kitchen, dining room and lounge. Floor-to-ceiling doors slide open, putting the bush canopy literally at arm's reach. At the front of the house, Harlem and Nicola have a generous master bedroom complete with ensuite. Access to the property is down a flight of steel steps to the front door. The walkway then continues right down the eastern side of the house. At the far end, Sylvie and Lil share their own bathroom and finally get their own bedrooms. Inside and out, this glass house blends right into the natural environment. A simple statement of balance and belief. The first thing that popped into my head was it's got to be precise. The workmanship has to be excellent because you get to see everything.
Exactly. Yeah,
Which sounds rather expensive and very slow. Tell me, is there a budget?
So the budget is $350
For a bridge?
for a bridge, but
With lots of glass?
with free labour.
Hence, I'm the boy for everybody else.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the structural steel, I'm going to be the boy. I'll be running cables for the sparky. I'll be digging trenches for the plumber. So the goal is by June of next year is to be in it. That doesn't mean it's finished. It's a builder's house after all.
June of next year?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
He's promised me earlier, Chris.
He promised earlier?
Promised earlier, but I think that's a bit unrealistic. I'm still hopeful for June.
6 months to build a glass house on a bridge above a stream? That's the definition of extremely optimistic, right there. Today has been a long time coming. 20 months of planning, in fact. But finally, work is underway and a digger is here to carve out access to site. Harlem, owner, builder and project manager, has to clear the front of the section, but he wants to keep as many trees as possible to give his glass house some privacy from the road. So is this the first dig, is it?
This is the very first dig. Yep. This
Wow.
is it.
That's pretty exciting. You must be
Pretty happy about it,
stoked.
actually. Yeah, I am. Should have put some bubbly in the stream.
In fact, the stream is one of the big concerns as the build begins. Under the terms of the resource consent, it has to be kept clean, and Harlem has a plan using hay bales.
It's sediment control, mate. One of the main reasons we're here is to live on that stream, and we want to look after it. So that's what we're doing. You want to get them down there?
You know, the last time I picked up one of these was back when I was a university student. Oh, great. I thought Harlem was the boy on this job. Now, it looks like I'm the boy as well. So that was a pretty good technique.
Look at that, even better.
Oh, look at that. Good skills. The idea behind the hay bales is they'll let the water through but stop sediment and rubbish created during the build. The stream is clean and full of life now and has to stay that way.
Last weekend there was a couple of big kura in there, so freshwater crays.
Wow.
And the big one that I picked out would have
No
been
way.
Yay big, yeah, it was a monster.
That is huge.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So you're actually in a good place. You've even got food. Water, food, what more do you need?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, a roof over your head. By the new year, the project's steaming ahead. Of course, it has to. Harlem says they're moving in June. The foundation holes have been dug and now they're ready for the concrete.
It's always a stressful day when concrete gets poured, from the amount that you order to just having everything right. Because once the concrete's in, there's no going back. And if you get it wrong, it's a lot of money.
The glass house is being built on a bridge standing on only 4 weight-bearing legs, and the foundations are right beside the stream. They've had to dig deep, very deep, right down to the bedrock way beneath the stream, and a little Kiwi ingenuity has been needed to make it work.
Because you've got a large hole that's very deep, you have to find a way to keep it from collapsing in. And the digger operator came up with an idea for 44-gallon drums.
It proves to be a great idea. The concreting foreman is impressed and inspired by the whole project.
Awesome site. I mean, you just look around. You imagine sitting on the deck, having a barbecue in the middle of your own little forest. I reckon it's a great idea. And there'll be more people doing it probably after this.
With this part of the foundation work complete, Nicola's brought the family over to celebrate. Sylvie and Lil's cousins are here too. They live just down the road.
I'm quite excited because we could just like scoot down and walk down here. I think it's going to be like a bus with legs.
After living at their grandparents' place for over a year, the girls are keen to stake their claim on their new territory. And of course, the attraction of wet cement is irresistible. Now the build's well underway, I wonder if the couple are having any second thoughts and whether modelling their house on Philip Johnson's famous glass house was such a great idea after all.
When Nick and I first walked on this section, it wasn't about the building, it was about being there.
So the building needs to vanish.
The building needs to be a non-building. Yeah.
Certainly the Johnson glasshouse sits seamlessly in its environment, but in practical terms, it's more a work of art than something to live in. Johnson and his friends used to party there in the middle of a huge estate. That's a long way from a family home in frosty Dunedin. Yeah, what were you thinking? Can you imagine it feeling homely?
No. Warmth, yeah. Like, I want to feel comfortable and warm. I guess that's what homeliness is, yeah.
Philip Johnson was brave, but you're mad. His wasn't a bridge floating in midair above a river. He's quite sensible, this guy, even though he's living in a glass box.
I think if he had the opportunity of having a crack at a site like ours, he would have done the same thing.
I've got to admire Harlem's positive outlook and his vision, but in one respect, it could be leading him astray. Building this house on top of a bridge with only 4 legs is a risk, and one he simply doesn't have to take. What's so beautiful about this design is its simplicity, its elegance. The structure is a bridge that's only held up in 4 places that bear all the weight. Most people would think, boy, shouldn't you put a few extra legs under the building? It amazes me that a builder like Harlem, who you would expect to be practical, sensible, is actually being stubbornly committed to making no compromise whatsoever. So it'll be really interesting to see if he manages to pull it off. In North Dunedin, the foundations for Harlem and Nicola's glasshouse are in. Now the bridge can be built over the steep gully and stream for the house to sit on. Today, Harlem's meeting with steelworker Simon Monson, who's making the beams for the bridge. 2 of the beams have to span 23 metres, but that's too long to be safely transported by road. So Simon's making them half that length, and they'll be welded together on site.
So if this is half the length, bro, can we chuck a tape on it and run it right out to the full length?
See what it is.
You reckon?
Harlem has been a builder for 20 years, but this sort of steelwork is brand new territory for him.
I don't know how to put steel together. I know that things have got to be plumb and true and straight, but the actual working of the material, you need somebody that knows what they're doing. The most important contractor on this particular build is the steel fabricator. If they don't get it right, you're dead in order.
The tape's not long enough.
Nicola and Harlem are keen to involve daughters Sylvie and Lil in the project so they'll appreciate how their new house is being put together, piece by piece.
Here's your bedroom. It's going to go right from here, all the way down to where Simon is.
That is long.
Really long.
What the girls can't appreciate is how worried their parents are about one aspect of the build. The bridge has to carry an estimated 90 tonnes of concrete and 6 tonnes of glass on only 4 weight-bearing legs. Most pressure will go on when the wet cement is poured. Worst case scenario, the bridge could buckle and collapse altogether.
So one of the things that I've always been concerned about is where it joins in the middle. And so that's where the main load of that concrete slabs go. So there's the thing called deflection, which is when the weight comes on, has the potential to do this at that point. But it is...
So that's going to be...
It's the most concerning part of the entire job for me.
Right, OK.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun day.
It is a risk, all right, and yet it could have so easily been avoided simply by adding an extra couple of legs in the middle of the bridge. But Harlem is doggedly unrepentant.
We could have chosen to have more legs, you know, in the mid-span. But if I'm honest, we don't want the middle legs because it ruins the aesthetic of it. It ruins, I guess, the spirit of the whole project. You know, we want to span the gully, and you chuck a couple more legs in there, and that, you know, we're just a pole house.
The complexity of their parents' build is a long way from the minds of Sylvie and Lil. They've discovered that Simon the steel man also breeds Labradors.
It's 4 days to 4 weeks.
Now that we've got some land,
There's 2 in there.
we might have a bit of fencing to do, but we might be able to get one of these. What do you think?
Yes, definitely.
The girls are sold. Every new house needs a new puppy, surely. Just a week later, the steel beams for the bridge are across town in Dunedin being painted when disaster strikes.
3 industrial buildings in the Burnside area were destroyed, along with a large shed.
The steel was at the painters, sitting outside the painter's shed with fire behind it and in front of it. I think it came within 20 metres of it. The engineer basically said, look, if any of that paint bubbled, he would have ripped the whole lot off, it would have been gone.
Fortunately, after the steel is closely inspected, it's cleared fit for use. And a few days later, it's on site. Harlem's first concern is how to get the steel onto site without damaging the trees at the front he wants to keep for privacy. That won't be easy.
I've been trying not to cut that Hanuka off. Well, I want to keep the kowhai tree.
To Harlem's dismay, though, both the kowhai and the kanuka have to go.
Killing all my trees, man.
The crane is smaller than Harlem thought it would be, and with a shorter reach. The wet Dunedin summer is also playing a part in making this a difficult and potentially dangerous operation. And I'm surprised Harlem and Simon are the only two on site to guide the steel legs into the piles. It's not like wood where you can shave off a bit here and there. These measurements have to be perfect.
Just up a touch. That's it, that's it.
The 4 legs are in. Now the beams for the bridge. The crane's moved as close to the gully as safety allows, to give it any chance of swinging the beams across the gap. The alarm warns the crane is approaching the very limit of its reach. And it's not going to be far enough.
We've got about 4 metres to go. The boys who bought the hire bin have undercalculated.
They can't get some of the steel where they need it, but Harlem's not giving up, and he and Simon start manhandling the beams into place. The steel must sit exactly right. Every millimetre counts.
How much?
60 mil back to you. 50 mil back to you.
You ready?
Give it another one. And then we're going to have to hook the crane on that end and try and lift it up and pull it around like that.
Even though the crane is bending alarmingly, the operation slowly continues. Until it doesn't. To complete the job, Harlem will have to bring in an even bigger crane, and that's going to cost. The family's still staying out at Brighton Beach at Nicola's parents' place, with Harlem spending more and more time on the build. Nicola's having to juggle her full-time job as a marketing manager and everything at home, something that Harlem used to manage.
The routine's totally shifted in our house, so Harlem was doing all the cooking for the household, pickups and drop-offs, and took the primary role, I guess, with the kids.
Wait.
It's busy.
No.
Yeah, so I've got work on my plate, but also got the whole dealing with the kids, dealing with food and chores and all of the stuff that I normally rely on him for. No jumping on the bed.
Sylvie's epilepsy and other medical conditions also need managing. There was an incident during the last school holidays when Nicola took the girls to visit Harlem's parents in Bluff.
Sylvie had quite a major seizure when we were down there. Harlem's mum hadn't seen her have a major seizure before, so that gave her quite a fright, and it's never nice dealing with those seizures on your own. You know, the first thing I did was call Harlem, and you never quite get used to seeing your child like that. And that's when he feels furthest away as well, so I know he felt pretty awful not being there.
The family's now been living with Nicola's parents for well over a year. Harlem's promised they'll be in their new home in June, 5 months away. That was if everything went to plan, and it hasn't. Harlem applied for the power to be connected to the site 3 months before he figured he'd need it. But now it's 4 months later and the power's still not on. Harlem got a second, longer crane to hoist in all the beams.
Can't roll over, can it?
But he can't weld them together without electricity. And he can't use a portable generator because the integrity of the welds could be compromised by fluctuating voltage.
Not having electricity on site. With a steel building, you're dead in the water if you need welding or anything major done. The impact's put us a month behind schedule, and I've made some pretty big promises to some pretty important people about being in here.
With the June move-in date fast approaching, Harlem needs the power on and the site up and running. But there's nothing he can do right now but wait and worry. The big delay in connecting electricity to Harlem and Nicola's site in North Dunedin has meant the build is now a month behind schedule. But the power's finally on, so the steel beams have been welded together for the top of the bridge. And Harlem's been making alterations he hopes will lessen the risk of the bridge collapsing when the concrete is poured.
You have been busy. Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, it looks like a really serious bridge.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing that I'm noticing is that quite a few things have changed.
Yes, so we've been playing around with a few of the structural elements. We thought of a much better way to do the floor.
These lightweight panels might take a huge load off Harlem's mind. They could allow him to cut the amount of concrete he needs for the floor in half, from 90 to 45 tonnes, and therefore reduce the risk of the bridge failing when the concrete is poured. Genius! However, it may have been better to run the idea past his engineer first.
I've done a fair few jobs for owner builders and people who are very emotionally involved in their projects. And they're both the best clients and the worst clients. You know, they stay awake at night and they worry about tiny little details, and every second day they'll ring you up and query it. Maybe we can do it this way, maybe we can do it that way. There's, you know, might be 1,000 different ways you can do it, and they're all very good ways of doing it. And there is a point where you've got to decide this is the way we're going to do it. The best time to decide that is when you put the building into consent.
There is one small problem. The new panels don't span the width of the bridge, so extra cross bracing is needed. That's extra work and extra money.
This is fascinating to me. It's really, in a way, a confrontation between the purity of the idea, this minimalist, structural, bridge-like idea, and the messy reality of getting it built.
While Harlem charges ahead, across town Nicola's work is also hectic. She's just had a promotion. More responsibilities, more pressure.
I guess it's been a really busy time here at work for me. I'm probably away every week at the moment, at least for a few nights, so I'm literally struggling to fit everything in that I need to fit in a day. And part of the discussion that Harlem and I have been having is how we can release some pressure, I guess.
The family has been staying with Nicola's parents for well over a year now. Just a little bit too long, but that could soon change.
We've actually got an opportunity to go house sitting for a few months, so I think we're going to take that opportunity up and just give everybody a little bit of space.
Also helping to ease some of the pressure is the couple's decision to push their moving-in date from June back to October. And while that's good, there's still the small issue of the bridge breaking when the concrete is poured. So I'm back at Brighton Beach to have one more crack at putting the heat on Harlem. These 4 posts are to carry the weight of the entire build.
Yep.
So your framework, your steel frame that your engineer has done all the calculations for, sits on top of those. Yep. The framework is welded together in the middle, and that's potentially the most vulnerable point when the weight goes on from the concrete. Harlem is using steel props to brace the bridge, but that's not all. And then we've got this.
Yeah, thanks.
Wooden bracing has to go in as well for extra support during the pour.
If I get this wrong, my bracing doesn't hold up, and we end up with 45 tonne of concrete in the stream. That's on me, that's on my shoulders.
Which I thought would be best illustrated by...
Oh, great.
So there you go. And let's see if it actually works. And I brought you a levelling machine.
Thanks.
So how worried are you that it may or may not work?
In the context of the build, this is the most worrying point. There'll be sleepless nights.
Wouldn't you be better off just putting another 2 permanent columns directly under the middle?
No. No.
Why not?
I mean, look at it. It'll look beautiful without them.
Okay, well, now it's your job to remove the boxing. You worried? Are you still sure that you wouldn't put those extra 2 columns in the middle?
I'm positive we're not putting those extra 2 columns in.
Even though this looks as though it's quite possible?
That is a distinct possibility, yes, on the day of the pour. Yeah, absolutely.
Good luck. There's a definite chill in the air this morning, and it's not just Dunedin in autumn. The day of reckoning has arrived. Harlem and his team are pouring the floor, 45 tonnes of concrete. That's half the amount he was going to use because he's putting in the lightweight panels. But Harlem is still nervous. The steel and timber bracing has to hold.
Feeling a little bit squeaky bum about the pour, just because if it goes wrong, it will go wrong big time. To be fair, this is probably the most complex and the riskiest pour I've ever done.
I find it incredible that Harlem's stubbornness about the minimalist design has put the whole project at risk. He could have so easily put in 2 extra legs to share the load, but he point blank refused. And worrying about it now is no use at all. The moment of truth will be when the wet cement reaches the middle of the span and exerts maximum load on the steel and timber bracing.
The closer we get to the middle of the span, the worse I'm going to feel. That's the critical part.
The weight goes on and the timber responds accordingly.
Everything's got a nice big bend in it. So as the pressures come on, these longer lengths of bracing, started to bow them out. So what I'm doing now is just chucking on some struts and braces just to brace the bracing.
The steel props and the timber bracing are now under huge pressure, and Harlem's racing against the concrete that continues to pour into the middle of the span. This is crazy, and there's no going back now. The concrete has almost reached the centre of the bridge. When it passes the middle, no extra load will go on the point where the beams are welded together. And it looks like Harlem's just dodged a bullet.
We're over to the other side's main support. The main steel structure hasn't moved at all, so I'm pretty happy, to be honest.
Steelman Simon couldn't stay away today. Like Harlem, he's supremely relieved the bridge has survived intact.
He wasn't the only one stressed out about it, to be honest. I was up last night thinking about it myself, actually, in the middle of the night.
The concrete floor is down and looks great from up top, but underneath, it's a different story. It's a jungle down here. All this bracing has to stay in place for a month until the concrete is completely cured. And then there's another big unknown. When the bracing is removed, how much will the floor drop?
This is the point that we were both a wee bit worried about.
So it's got all the weight on it now, so it's just a matter of waiting until the bracing comes out from underneath and hope it stays there.
Yep.
At certain points during the building of a house, it's important to step back and reflect on what you're doing. Sometimes it's hard to see the wood for the trees, so to speak. So I'm taking Harlem and Nicola to see a house that hopefully will inspire them, but also might pose a few questions. This is the Break House in the Waitakere Ranges in West Auckland, designed in the 1970s by architect Ron Sang and built for photographer Brian Brake.
Here we go, guys.
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Like Harlem and Nicola's house, the Break House is immersed in the bush, floating in the trees. Glass pavilions linked by a glass bridge.
And then there's the tatami room.
This house is not only a masterpiece of modernist design, it also incorporates influences from the Far East, where Brian Brake lived for many years.
And so many different facets. And then bang, all the way through to central Auckland. Food for thought.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
You feel like every room or every view, it's all leading you somewhere. There's this continuous sort of flow.
Yeah, no dead ends. Everything just keeps going.
The different spaces and planes in this house is another level to what we've got. Like those two decks out there, just...
Well, let's go and have a look at it. Look at this. Isn't this
Incredible.
magic? Hovering.
Yeah, hovering.
And you're really in it now.
Yeah.
So imagine this kind of dimension in your house. Where do you see that happening?
We don't have the same ability to get outside, which gives this a whole new dimension.
But while Nicola and Harlem's house doesn't have decks like this, it does have a stream flowing underneath. At the Brake House, it's been developed as a wetland, something the couple could also do.
We've been so focused on the bridge in the house and the dimension of the house, but actually how we connect to the below, I think, is something that we need to put a lot more thought into.
Yes, the Brake House may be an architectural masterpiece, but it's still wonderfully livable. And that's certainly something I hope Harlem and Nicola will also achieve. Back on site, another milestone. Time for the roof to go on. Once again, Harlem has opted for lightweight panels, insulated to help make up for all that glass.
Because the house is pretty much glass walls, all of the other components like the floor and the roof have to be a much higher insulation level than a usual build. It's a solid polystyrene block, and it has a skin on the top, which is your roof, and a skin underneath, which is your ceiling, and it just self-spans, so I don't need any framing either. I was here about 7 prepping for it. Crane turned up at 9, and at the moment they've got about 4.5 panels on. Shouldn't be too far away from putting the roof on in one day.
The roof goes together perfectly according to plan. And what a difference it makes. It suddenly feels like a real house.
Cool, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite different now, eh?
Yeah.
Totally changes it. It's amazing to have the view frame like that, isn't it?
Now you just want to get rid of the scaffold, do you?
Yeah, I do. Now it's here, now I can start to feel what it really feels like. Nice work.
I didn't do much.
While Harlem's in control of the build, Nicola is driving the interior design. She was going it alone, but now has decided to bring in a friend.
I'm hoping, Talia, that you're just going to help me pull this interior together. With it being glass on all sides, I know that I'll appreciate the view, but how I'll actually feel sitting in there in the middle of Dunedin winter, that's what I'm worried about.
You've got this beautiful environment surrounding you, but you still want to feel like you're at home. And once we've got the base palette of the different timbers that are being used, we can work from there to add the softness. And then you've got those mid-century pieces, some of which you've already got, which is fantastic. Some we will add. And another big one, of course, is the lighting, and that's a fun one.
So a lot of shoestring budget.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't trust Harlem implicitly.
As much as Harlem has got it under control and he's excellent at what he does, hopefully, I can add that other element.
Harlem has got his own ideas on interior design, and he's got pieces stored away he wants to use. Today, he's got Nicola's brother helping him move some.
These units that we bought for our kitchen and other pieces of joinery in the new house, they're from Science Building at the University of Otago. What attracted me to them initially was that they were at a scrap dealers and they were cheap. And Arimu, the colour of it is what we want the home to feel like. So, just a really warm colour. Because at the end of the day, the house is pretty much a non-house, it's see-through. So this stuff's gonna give us our warmth.
It's been a month since the concrete floor was poured. It's now completely dry, so the remaining steel props can be removed. Harlem expects the floor to drop, maybe just 5 millimetres, but it could drop up to 20. And that could cause a few problems. Engineer Stephen McKnight is on hand just in case.
Hello, how are you?
How you going?
Yeah, good, mate. Good.
So we should take these props away.
No.
You look worried, don't you?
I'm all right.
I'm vaguely confident. Well, you have to be confident that your design is going to work. You hope that you've been reasonably conservative, and what you find is as good or better in reality. But there is that element of excitement to find out just exactly how your numbers compare to the real world. There we go, that's loosening up very quickly.
So there's one. That did drop, so probably about 5-6 mil.
Maybe 5 mil, not more than that.
Harlem removes the props, one by one.
I'm pretty stoked with it. That drop maybe a couple mil at the most.
It looks like the overall drop will be well under 5 millimetres. A great result.
I reckon we're sweet. My bit's done.
Thanks,
Up
mate.
to you now.
Yeah. I'm feeling pretty damn good. Now that we're hanging in space, everything else is easy. The issues are small.
Next job, the glass. All 6 tonnes and 154 square metres of it. The pressure's on because there's only a day left to finish installing the windows and doors before a council pre-line inspection.
For council to sign off on our pre-line, the glass needs to go in because they're our external walls. Without those, we won't have the ability to carry on with the build.
Just as I'd hoped, the visit to the break house in Auckland has given Harlem and Nicola much food for thought. So much so that they've had a breakthrough on a troubling issue.
A problem we had was privacy when it came to this end of the house, which is exposed to the street, which is our ensuite and our master bedroom. But with the visit to the break house, I noticed a little bit of mirroring going on. And talking to Nick, it just made sense to then repeat that here. Now that I see the mirrored glass going there, it's pretty awesome. It's turned the whole end of this house into green, which is also part of what we wanted to achieve with a glass house. You want to be able to see the green through the entire house.
The last panes of glass are going in on schedule. Harlem and the house should be as ready as they can be for the crucial council pre-line check tomorrow. Then Harlem takes a phone call that potentially throws another spanner in the works.
The people that we're house sitting for, they're coming back 2 weeks earlier than we thought. So instead of 5 weeks to get into place, we've got 3 weeks. We're moving in 3 weeks. So it's just how it is. Whatever stage it's at, we're getting in there. As long as it's closed in and we've got a bathroom and a kitchen, I really don't care anymore. It's just getting in there.
It's been a whole year since I saw Nicola and Harlem's house. And this amazing industrial bridge-like hulk, so ambitious, I can't wait to see it. But the thing is, can they actually turn it into a comfortable, livable home? Well, let's find out. Oh gosh, things are looking very tidy.
It's certainly not a hulk now. I can see at a glance this house is completely at one with its environment.
G'day.
G'day, mate, how are you?
Boy, I can't quite believe it. It's so elegant.
I'll come on in and have a look there.
Can't wait. Wow. My goodness, it's absolutely gorgeous. The warmth, the timber, the sense of homeliness, and this wonderful seamless connection with nature.
Thanks, mate.
Yes, they're not just close to nature, they're in it.
Listen to that stream. You can taste it out here.
Full of life too.
In the sense of the seasons, I mean, you're going to get that. You can see the colours changing already.
The kitchen looks $1 million, but it cost next to nothing. Remember, Canny Harlem snapped the cabinetry up for free from Otago University. Mind you, he did have to work pretty hard to convince Nicola.
He could see something in it that I couldn't see.
Yeah.
I was, what do you mean you're making me a kitchen out of that?
Yeah, so it was a tough conversation because it's a new house.
New house, but you didn't get your new kitchen, and you
I
ended
didn't get a
up
new
with
kitchen, but
a
it's got
recycled
personality.
science lab.
Yeah.
This is very clever, because it really changes the way that the space works.
This gives us separation, but it also gives us a place to put pictures and stuff of us. There's not really that much space in the house for that.
We knew we wanted that kind of randomness.
Yep.
Planned randomness is really hard.
It's lovely. And the way that it carries through into this.
The centre of the house is the lounge, and it's here in this family space that Nicola's style really shines.
Boy, what an eye, the colours, the textures. It's beautiful in here.
I really wanted that comfort, that the textures of the leather and the mid-century furniture all worked together and just felt really comfortable, really.
And it does feel cosy in here.
Now, you'd think a concrete floor in a glass house here in the deep south would be freezing, right? Wrong.
The sense of warmth coming up from underneath the concrete.
Yeah, so it's got in-slab heating and underneath that layers and layers of insulation.
And you guys are living in a glass house in Dunedin, for goodness sake.
And you wouldn't know, as soon as you walk over the threshold, it's warm.
The other thing that I've been dying to test, yeah, you really are living on a bridge. There's a bit of spring there, nice.
Yeah, that crack wasn't there before you did that, by the way.
The elegant and understated master bedroom and ensuite is Nicola and Harlem's haven at the end of the house. And because it's the street end and there are no curtains in this house, there's a need to see out, but not in.
Aha!
It needs to be mirrored. For privacy, it works perfectly.
Daughters Sylvie and Lil's bedrooms are right down the other end of the house. With the same mirrored glass as their parents' bedrooms, the girls are pretty much in the bush. Sylvie is on the warm side of the house.
Fortunately, because they're so different, the two kids, they chose opposite rooms, which, yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. No fights.
Lil's bedroom is on the other side of the house because, well, she is pretty chill.
Hi, Lil. Is it okay if we come in?
Yeah.
Wow, what a great room. What do you think about it just being all glass?
It's a bit weird. I can see out and then no one can see in.
What kind of wildlife can you watch when you're looking out the window?
There's lots of possums. Just watch from my bed and I can see their eyes. It creeps me out.
Oh, right. The idea of building a bridge over stream, it was audacious, and you pulled it off. It was pretty out there, even with all your experience.
If I stood back now and had a look at the house complete and said to myself 4 years ago when we first started, hey, go and build that, I'd like to look at myself and go, I don't think so. I can't think of anything.
How do you feel now that you're in? Are you happy with what you've managed to achieve?
Yeah. I mean, there's always a sense of relief. It's just getting on with life and enjoying it now, which I'm really looking forward to doing.
What have you learned from each other through this whole process?
I've been just super impressed at Harlem's resilience and tenacity and really grateful for what he's created for us.
That leads to another question for me. Did you meet your budget?
No.
What did it end up costing?
About $450, obviously without Harlem's labour included. So, yeah, so we didn't do it sub-4 like we wanted to.
Even $450,000 is actually a very humble budget. How on earth did you pull that off?
The cost is in the structure itself and then not having Harlem's time. Everything else, interior-wise, was done on a really, really modest budget. That's part of the reason why it doesn't feel slick and extremely high-spec inside. It just feels comfortable.
All I can say at this point is congratulations on one of the most extraordinary builds I have ever witnessed. I think you two are extraordinary. Well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Almost time for me to go, but first, little surprise here for Nicola and Harlem. This is my way of atoning for all the grief I gave Harlem. In particular, about building his house on only 4 weight-bearing legs.
I have brought you not one, but 2. Picture when you know it could have been this.
I love it.
Thanks, mate.
It's been a huge privilege to witness this incredible project, which for Harlem and Nicola has been as much a leap of faith as a leap across this valley, defying gravity, adversity, and good advice, yet without destroying the magic of this exquisite slice of nature. Actually, I think he's improved this place. He's forged a wonderful family home on a very lean budget. It's nothing short of a masterwork of alchemy.
And then the hydrologist goes, this is going to make you laugh, Harlem. And they said, like, we want a hydrologist report.
And there's another packet I kept in the back.
Start up past the hospital somewhere.
No.
Cheers.